Welcome to our brand new series. So in this series, we're going to be looking at a full conversion from start to finish. We're going to start where everybody needs to start, and that is what van to buy. So there's lots of pros and cons for all the vans that are out there. Now obviously we deal specifically with the bigger vans, so we're not going to be talking about the smaller vans like your customs and transporters today. We're going to be looking at the bigger vans. We're going to have a look at the pros and cons for these vans and see which one might be best for you. The information I'm giving, some of it is personal choice and preference, and some of it is sort of more of a general knowledge. So all that being said, let's have a look at the different vans and what is best for you. Now the first van we're going to talk about is the X250, X290. So this would be your Fiat Ducato, Peugeot Boxer, Citroen Relay, and now your Vauxhall Movano. So these particular vans, it's great, you've got a nice variety, but we also now need to look at the ages of the vans because there are different engines. Now, if you're looking at new vehicles in this series and you're talking sort of 2025 onwards, they all share a brand new 2.2 litre engine that is new to the market and hasn't really been tried and tested. So we don't know how good these engines are going to be yet. But what we can talk about is the engines in the predecessors. So sort of 2024 before, you have the 2.2 litre engine that's predominantly in the Boxer and the Relay, and then you've got the 2.3 litre engine that's in the Ducato. Now, the 2.3 litre engine in the Ducato is an Iveco engine and has got quite a good reputation for being quite reliable. So out of these vans, that is definitely my first choice of engines. The 2.2 litre engines in both the Relay and the Boxer aren't as reliable and have a bit of a bad rep, but I think it's also fair to say at this stage is you can go online, Google any engine, and you're gonna find bad points about every single engine. People are gonna complain about all of them. So the 2.2s, they got a bit of a bad rep. You know, they very rarely do go over the 150,000 mile mark. Then you're needing to look to replace an engine. Now, the only benefit with those engines is that because they are replaced so often, they're actually quite cheap to get hold of for new ones and reconditioned ones. But you know, it's maybe not something we want to be looking at. You know, if you're going to invest all this money in your camper van conversion, you need something good to start with. Engine wise, there's a bit of a variation on them all. The new ones, say they're too new for us to have a good idea on how they're going to stand in the test of time. But let's now look at the other aspects of these vans and the pros and cons to them. Now, the biggest pro to these vans is the width. These are the widest vans out of all the vans. You can get a full length mattress widthways on this van without having to do any flares. That in itself can save you a lot of money. You can do internal pockets on your walls and say get yourself a nice full-size mattress. On the other side of things, the lengths are a little bit shorter. So a long wheelbase X250, X290 isn't as long as a long wheelbase Sprinter or Crafter, for example. They are a little bit shorter. Whilst you do get that width space, you do lose a little bit on the length. However, this is a long wheelbase. They do mostly all offer an extra long wheelbase, so you can get that extra bit of length if you want. Just remember, you're going to lose a little bit on your payload. Now, talking of payloads, another big pro for the X250, X290 vehicles is that they have a really, really good payload. I'll put the details below. The majority of our vans fully converted are below 3 ton, which is giving our customers over 500 kilograms plus for a payload. Now, the best one we did had 860 kilogram payload, which is massive. They do carry good capacity for payload if built correctly. Obviously, later in this series, we'll show you how we build, help reduce weight, because a lot of what we do is all about weight reduction, but brilliant payloads on these. Right, the next van we're going to look at is the new shape Crafter and MAN TGE. Now, in my opinion, one of the best looking vans on the market. I think they're very sleek, they're very modern, they're very clean looking vans. Also really like the dashboards on these, but it does come with a con, and it is the reason why my latest camper van wasn't one of these, and to me it's for the engine. So the engine on these are transporter engines, and for me they're a little bit underpowered. You can get them mapped and obviously get that extra power out of them, but being a transporter engine, we do find they're a bit under strain, and I have seen personally quite a lot of oil leaks on the bottom end of the engine underneath, and I think that's down to the engine not being quite strong enough. Now, if these guys brought out an engine that was specific for these vans, I'd buy one tomorrow. But it's also worth considering these are sort of higher end on the price scale. So these do cost a little bit more as composed to your X250s, X290s, where they tend to be a lot more budget friendly. Now with these vans, you can't do a bed widthways unless you're sort of under 5.5 foot. You are going to have to put flares in to have a full widthway bed on these. But obviously you've also got the fact you can have lengthways, you know, depend on your layout. Love the vans. The engine for me actually lets these down a little bit, but they are beautiful looking vans. Right, let's look at the next van. So the Sprinters, just like the other vans, also come with their pros and cons. So let's talk about the pros first. The engines are known to be very reliable engines. If you were to go and look on sort of Auto Trader, eBay, you will find the vans out there with the most mileage and still going 100% will always be the Sprinter. Now that's not to say they don't come with their problems, because there are cons with the Sprinter, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now one of the other pros is purely the length on these Sprinters. They are one of the longest vehicles on the market. You do get plenty of space inside of these, but just like the new Crafter and Man TGE, you can't have a widthways bed without having a flare. The Sprinters also mimic the old shape Crafters as well. So if you look at the Crafters, I believe it was around 2019, 2020 when they switched from the old shape to the new shape. So the old shape Crafters pre sort of 2020 are identical to the Sprinters as well. Now in my opinion, they are certainly one of the most reliable vans on the market. But like I said, there are some cons to them, so let's talk about those. They are also one of the most expensive, so these are going to cost you a little bit more than what some of the other vans are, but maybe not quite as much as sort of the Man TGEs. Crafters and Sprinters tend to be quite equal in their pricing, and you do see quite a few reports of electrical issues on these vehicles on the engine side. As I said earlier in the video, you can find problems with every single engine that exists. What I do is when I looked at eBay and I look at sort of all these different brand vans, I look at the mileage they're on. If you go look at a Boxer or a Relay, you won't find many above 200,000 miles that don't say in the ad, engine replaced as such and such. Whereas with the Sprinter engines, they do keep going and going and going, but maybe less electrical items on the van might be better for reliability. And probably the biggest thing to keep an eye out for on these Sprinters is rust. They do have a few hot spots for rust on these. You need to be checking sort of along the sill. And another common spot is definitely on this back edge here, as well as the corners of the doors. But if you find a nice one, like this one's been resprayed, so obviously it's been looked after, and also the one we've got outside we can see has also been resprayed at some point as well. So there's zero rust on these, so I haven't got any I can show you, but just keep an eye out. Obviously you've got to get a balance between budget and quality of the van. Now, the vans we've talked about are the most commonly converted vans, but it's not to say other vans don't get converted as well. Obviously there are others out there, but we're not so familiar with these ones. You've got the Ford Transits. Now a lot of these come with the wet belts, which is taking a bit of stick at the moment, but from my understanding, as long as you have them serviced regularly with Ford, you should have many years of happy motoring with these. You've got the Renault Master and the old Vauxhall Mavanos. Again, you probably see quite a few of these on the road. They're quite cheap to buy, and even looking at this one, which is 15 years old, there is no rust on it, so bodywork is impeccable, to be fair. But hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insight into vans. As I said, this is either through experience, through customer feedback. My best mate's a mechanic, so I get information from him. If I was to place the vans I would go for, my number one spot would be the Mercedes Sprinter, and my second spot would be the 2.3 litre Fiat Ducato. For the best budget van, I would be looking at probably the Peugeot Boxer. So the engine's not quite as reliable, but I've also got friends who've got them. They are at the 200,000 miles and they're still going strong. We just see a lot of faulty engines on these, but I think for money, for what you get, a lot of them tend to come with aircon and cruise control as standard, and you do get a lot of van for your money. Said the new Boxers have all got a new engine in, which even Fiat have moved over to, so it will be interesting to see in the coming years how these engines perform against the older 2.2 litre engines. Now hopefully that gives you some insight into sort of help you decide what vans you should be looking at, or even when you are looking at these vans, things to look out for. As I said, I'm no mechanic, and the biggest advice I would give to anybody when purchasing a vehicle is pay for an AA inspection. if you're about to spend thousands on the van and thousands again on the conversion, why would you not spend about £150? Get an AA guy out, they'll do a full vehicle inspection report, and it's something we recommend to all our customers who are buying privately. That way they're going to know everything there is to know about that van, whether it's good, bad and the ugly. Hope you enjoyed this video. Join us in the next video where we're finally going to start converting this van.